In a recent video, I talked about how 2022 could quite possibly be the single greatest year in video game history. 2021 is more like an appetizer. It's like having potato skins before serving up a 16-inch margarita. I wasn't lucky enough to find a PS5 this year, so I missed out on Housemarque's Seizure Simulator Returnal and Deathloop, which IGN thinks is as good as some of these games. The Series X also got its first couple exclusives, Forza Horizon 5, and a game that Microsoft spent $500 million on, Halo Infinite. Both these games are on Xbox Game Pass, which is now PC Game Pass. So why does anyone need an Xbox again? Mario Party Superstars released as the ultimate party game to play with friends and family, alongside Mario Golf and WarioWare. There were a lot of JRPGs as well, Shin Megami Tensei, Tales of Arise. I still haven't gotten around to playing any of them. Platformers are making a comeback. Ember Lab put out this charming little indie game that looks like a Pixar film. There were quite a few scattered hidden gems. If you haven't played any of these, do yourself a favor. While I did play a lot of classics and a lot of games that didn't necessarily come out this year, this list is going to comprise entirely of games that came out in 2021. And that'll include re-releases or remasters or ports that I haven't played.
Let's get into it. Skip it up and that up.
Everhood's style is definitely inspired by Undertale, but it's far from a fan tribute or even in the same playing field. Everhood brings its own unique gameplay to the table with a charming set of its own characters, a genuinely good story, and an overall fun time. I do want to mention that sometimes playing this game feels like a major acid trip. Like, can you explain to me what is happening in this sequence? How do you even play this shit? There were a few rhythm games that came out this year, and arguably the most popular one was Friday Night Funkin'. I mean, the community was on fire with some of the mods they created. Even Riot Games came out with their League of Legends rhythm platformer spin-off Hextech Mayhem, and you could make a case for Everhood technically being a rhythm RPG, but my personal favorite had to be Rhythm Doctor. It's such a simple concept. You press spacebar on the 7th beat of the song, so you end up sounding like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then the boss fights in this game are pretty unique. Before you know it, some crazy shit happens and you're counting like this. Okay, alright, I can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh man, you son of a... Monster Hunter Rise is just more Monster Hunter, and more Monster Hunter is all you need to make me happy. But for the rest of you out there, why should you play this? Well, I'm glad you asked, you fucking piece of wire bugs. These are a small yet extremely effective change that actually feels incredibly balanced and offers a whole new dimension of movement by bringing in an element of verticality. Your offensive options, defensive options, and even exploration options are now completely changed up. Plus, you can pull off some incredibly badass shit.
Jones. Watford for the win! Yeah!
Rift Apart isn't an amazing game, but it is a really fun one. It doesn't stray out of its comfort zone and decides to play things pretty safe, but what it does do is improve upon the things that make it a good game. There are quite a few fun set-piece moments, like the giant fixer robot grind rail segment, as well as sections where you can explore semi-open world planets with these new rocket booster boots, which let you see how bright and vivid some of these environments are, and it even feels like a lot of fun to control. But there are very few things that felt innovative or new. Mainly the weapons. These are usually super creative, and some can actually be paired to create devastating combos. One time I used a sprinkler to turn all these enemies into topiary, and then blew them up with a cluster grenade. My favorite combo is using the Apocalypse Glove and Mr. Fungi to create this mini army that fights off these waves of enemies for you, and you never really have to do anything, you just stand there and watch. I think I'm gonna go get some water. Did I miss anything? Aside from Lady, oh my lord! Resident Evil does a crazy fun job balancing the survival horror and action horror aspects in this latest entry in the series. The setting is eerie, the four lords are crazy, and the baby made me shit myself. But I don't have to talk about Resident Evil to you. You know why you're here. You know why you played it. It Takes Two follows up on the ideas from A Way Out and turns them up to 1,000. You're no longer restrained by the limitations of two grown men trying to break out of prison and figure out how to work together. Instead, you play as two parents on the verge of divorce, and a magic book transports your souls into these two dolls that your daughter made because she wants you to get along. It's here that getting rid of the reality aspect allows for so many more absurd ideas to take hold, and that is where It Takes Two shines. The game is chock full of creativity, and it seeps into the many different multitude of themes players can expect to encounter. The setting and the mechanics are always changing so that levels are never stagnant for too long. 1 minute you might be playing a space platforming segment where Cody's using his shrinking and embiggening abilities, while May has these neat gravity boots and you have to face off against this moon baboon in a UFO. The next minute you enter this dungeon crawling level in a toy castle with these fire and ice magic abilities, and the prime objective is to find your daughter's princess toy elephant and murder it.
I think she's tricking us. Pull me!
And you thought last year's game of the year was dark. If you haven't played Chapter 1, then you haven't played Chapter 2. And if you haven't played Chapter 2, then what the fuck is wrong with you? Here you are paying $60 for a buggy mess and calling it a solid time, while Toby Fox is busting ass making one of the funniest, most charming RPGs out there. There's never a dull moment. The characters are well written, the humor is contagious, the soundtrack is a hit yet again. This is a free fucking game. Remember how in Super Mario 64 you got a star and then it booted you out of the level? Or how in Super Mario Galaxy you got a side quest star and it still booted you out of the level? In Super Mario Odyssey you could still stay in the level and get as many moons as you wanted, but once you were done you still had to switch between kingdoms. Bowser's Fury is a literal open world Mario game with multiple levels scattered across the map. You can 100% every single catshine without ever being interrupted. This game feels more like an experiment into what Mario has in store for the future, except the experiment itself is so much fun. Everything is cat themed, from the Goombas to the Conktors to the trees to the seagulls. The level design assets are from Super Mario 3D World and they're plastered throughout the area, with the platforms that shift color whenever you jump, to the switchboards that move in the direction of the arrows you stand on. Even the power-ups are pulled directly out of 3D World. Fury Bowser is an amazing addition. He's like this jacked up version of regular Bowser that looms menacingly in the distance before awakening and breathing fire all over the island. And you gotta get this giant cat bell and turn into a Super Saiyan cat Mario to beat him. Thank you, Nintendo. For a game that lingered in development hell for 15 odd years, Metroid Dread is the hallmark of a Metroidvania that trims the fat from other games in the genre. It's a far cry from its predecessors in terms of pacing. It's such a fast and fluid game, it feels like no time is wasted, even when you're exploring. The most notable change to the franchise is the inclusion of Emmys. These are basically eerie sci-fi horror stalker robots, and they make me clench my butt cheeks. Oh shit, I've never clenched harder in my life! Kena Bridge of Spirits, It Takes Two, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Super Mario 3D World, each platformer dominates in a specific department. But as far as story platformers go, Psychonauts 2 is definitely the top dog. Nothing else comes close as far as the writing, voice acting, and the plot is concerned. The entire game oozes so much personality, and I was really hoping it'd win Game of the Year 2021. You've got your psychedelic LSD trip level, you've got your cooking competition where the ingredients are members of the audience, and you've got milk that doesn't come from goats.
From the goats?
Oh, yeah, that would have been easier. Hey, it brought us closer, Fran.
Did she milk the bird? Inscryption is a difficult game to explain, mainly because I'd rather you go into it blind and play it for yourself. At its core, Inscryption is a deck-building game with an extremely addictive gameplay loop. You find yourself sitting across the table from a weird set of glowing eyes, explaining the rules of his card game. It seems simple enough. You discard your squirrel, and it counts as a blood sacrifice. Certain cards require a certain number of blood sacrifices. Each card has a certain number of health points, a certain number of damage points, and in some cases a sigil. Cards without sigils normally attack what's in front of them, an opposition card or the player directly. A card with a sigil now acts in a certain manner. Maybe it flies over an opposition card to directly attack the player, maybe it attacks in 3 different directions, or maybe it evolves into another card entirely. The multitude and complexity of these rules is what keeps things fresh and adds depth. Where things start to get mysterious is when he tells you to get up from the seat and get something for him. All of a sudden, you can now explore the cabin. And Inscryption is at its best when it throws these mysterious twists and turns at the player. I really don't want to say any more because I want you to go and experience this for yourself. So turn off this video and go play Inscryption. Skyward Sword is pretty much the polar opposite of Breath of the Wild. In the latter, the sky is the limit. An open world where there's no wrong direction, you're free to explore and discover as you wish, and it all counts as progress. In the former, the sky is technically still the limit, but now you have a more concise and structured experience with a focused plot and a strong cast of supporting characters. Because the world is smaller and Link is funneled from one objective to the next, Nintendo reuses the same levels but with brand new ideas. As an example, Eldin Volcano starts off as a traditional go from point A to point B objective, but upon revisiting it later in the game, it turns into a stealth sequence where Link has to sneakily maneuver the area to retrieve his gear. These ideas are present in combat too. While Breath of the Wild has an insanely fun gameplay system, Skyward Sword's interactions with enemies are just as entertaining. Slingshotting a bokoblin carrying a boulder or trying to cross a tightrope, or just grappling it in the face to mess with it. Nice. Skyward Sword might have been a divisive game when it came out for the Wii, but getting rid of the wonky motion controls allows it to focus on what it does best, being an absolute masterpiece of an adventure. I need to take the ball that way. Oh, never mind. Wait a second. Wait.
Hadouken!